Hi, welcome to our show, What Now, where we have been exploring many topics, but more so about what about love and a civilization of love. Our co-host, in fact, today is like a role reversal thing, and John is going to be my co-host, and we are interviewing Mark Anielski, who would tell us all about his Charter of Love. Then we have Mirjam joining us from Belgium. And Mirjam has launched a soft revolution of love just yesterday. So she's going to share with us what is this saying about love? Because yes, as we all agree and we understand, is love is the only thing we need collectively on a human basis, and also in many broken systems and power structures. I think the love thing is missing. So that's what we've been talking about. We have interviewed a friend from Transylvania, Ivo Wolkenberg as well, who has written something he calls a tender, a legal tender of love, Mark?
Love, yes.
Love as a legal.
Love as legal tender.
Yes. And then also we have interviewed Dr. Alex and Tamin Haddad. They have written about love as well. So bringing in Mirjam first, and then we'll go to Mark. Please tell us about your soft revolution of love and what is this love about? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I thought, well, so many people are getting depressed because of the lockdown and they cannot do anything because there are all these rules and police driving around. And I thought, let's cheer them up and let's send a wave of love from my heart to everybody's heart all over the world, because love is the strongest thing there is, and it can heal everything. It can even heal a failing economic system. So I thought, let's start and let's try everybody to join in, because the more people are doing it, the stronger it is.
So you're sending this wave of love worldwide.
Yes, I do.
So what does that mean in practical terms? Are you praying? Or?
I'm a Shambhala, the multidimensional healing master. So that means that I have learned how to heal people, how to be a channel to heal people. And when I heal people, I'm just like the chimney that's getting swiped also. So if I heal someone, my negative energy goes to the earth via my feet. And I'm also healed when I heal someone else, because every day you pick up negative emotions from other people if you don't protect yourself well enough. So I just radiate a pink ray of love from my heart chakra all over the world. And I did it when I spoke to Mark while we were talking, and he felt it immediately. Because it doesn't have boundaries. It can go from Belgium to Canada, from one side of the world to the other side of the world. And the more people do it, the stronger it is. And then I hope it will reach our government leaders as well, and they will start thinking about love instead of money.
Thank you, Mirjam. I'm going to bring in John now and bring Mark in, and then we'll have another question for you.
Mark, your Charter of Love reminds me of the Magna Carta. It's a great big global statement.
The Great Charter of Freedom, the Magna Carta. Yeah.
Indeed, the greatest probably, or the first anyway. And your Charter of Love, I was brought up in the Western tradition, so very briefly I understand the power of the great words of the Christian faiths, which is faith, hope, and love. These words have power, they have energy, they have meaning. They also have true value, and they affect the actions of people when they are practiced, believed. We're living in a very secular world now, where faith, particularly in Western Europe, is diminishing so rapidly, certainly within the Christian world, that those words no longer have the same power, the same meaning. But of course, they do if they're used effectively and efficiently by individuals. How does one now, with a new charter, inspire and motivate the large numbers of people necessary to transform the current condition of mankind? Is it through the same way that Miriam has just said? Is it through prayer? Or is it through some other means by which we can communicate this truth that love is a healing, great healing property? How are we going to do that, please?
That's a great question, and it's something I've been pondering. I read the Charter of Love just came to me like a flash, right? And it was part of our conversations. And we talked about, can we synthesize all the words of the 25 guests we've heard into an anthology or something, a new narrative?
Yes.
Because what we realize is whatever we've written down and whatever we've enunciated, declared out of our mouths represents what we say we believe. So this conversation about in this COVID situation is about what is the new narrative. And the new narrative is an ancient narrative. Love is an old narrative. It's common across all faiths, all indigenous peoples. This is what Mir and I are talking about. So it's an interesting question. Do we literally, I mean, honestly, do we have to re-articulate that love is who we are? Do we have to remind ourselves over and over again that this truth, it's a very simple line. Love is who you are. Love is what created the universe. So how can we be separate from love? It's an illusion. So my little attempt to just rewrite the Declaration of Independence or the Magna Carta and putting love into the places where we said we find these things self-evident. So the importance of a declaration or a covenant, this is not our covenant we know is one of love. Amir and I have again talked about this. We can go all the way back to the mythical Atlantis if we'd like. And what will we find? We'll find over and over again that we have forgotten this basic truth. Now, what's also happening is what the soft revolution of love, it sounds cheesy. You've even said the Charter of Love is sweet. It's too sweet. I say, all right, it's too sweet for some of us. But for many of us, it resonates in the heart chakra, in the sacred heart, whatever faith you come from. And so interesting that sometimes we have no words at all. What we did yesterday is we just sent out love. That's it. You know, you could put raise a flag. Amir can talk about that. So it's interesting as for a man who writes books and of words, okay, let's re-articulate this narrative or restate the narrative. On the other hand, we have energetic stuff going on. We have prayer, right? We have the power of Amir had, initiated yesterday. So I'd like to ask Mir, what is it that we need to practice? Because this is practice. Love is practice. Love is action.
We need to use loving words, because words are spells. We are having the word spelling in English. We spell words. So it's very important what you say, what you radiate. Don't ever yell at anybody. Don't call them names, because it is really energy. Everything is energy. And love is a big positive energy, and it's stronger than anyone thinks.
It's very important. If you've studied, I've studied Qigong and the Taoist masters, and I've studied Barbara, what's her name? Hands of Light Healing. I know it'll sound weird, but where the Qigong masters know that healing can occur without touch. And you and I were talking about this. We can heal people just by literally sending them energy, our positive energy. And so this Hands of Light Healing, I have the book. It's quite an incredible book. She's an energetic healer. And what she understands is auric fields are affected by, right, stress and trauma. And you can see, some people can literally see these traumas in the body at the cellular level. And she says when people are in conflict, she could see these auric spears coming out, like literally from your solar plexus or whatever, sometimes from your mind, right? Literally engaging each other like spears. And it's quite remarkable. But what is this vibration occur, like this embracing vibration of love? And so we need to be serious about what's going on is there's an energy dynamic going on here in the chakra fields. And I know it may sound a bit esoteric, but I believe, you know, I'm an economist, so I actually believe it's real.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's not like, but it has been going on in many esoteric traditions. And you know that there are many circles held. I mean, we also do our Sufi circle, healing circle. Every Sunday, we all gather and we just say peace, peace, right? For the world to come down. So, sorry, you are on mute, Mariam.
With how many people, and are there women and men?
So ours is like a world community, but we join together. There are like 400 people sometimes, but those who are not joining the live call, they still listen to the recording, and we get like, you know, it could be just reverberating the word peace. So the world needs to calm down, and we just chant peace, right? So I do understand where you're coming from. But the thing is, this is, as Mark said, it's an ancient tradition. We all know about this, and it's still happening in today's world as well. But so you are now saying that, so how do we bring more people in according to when you launched the Revolution of Love, what was the response, say, for example?
Well, I only launched it on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got major response. Someone set up a group because I said, well, you have to fill in the Revolution of Love the way you want it. You're free. So someone wrote an article on LinkedIn and put my name under it as an inspiration. So that's what I really want. I want people to do spontaneous actions of love, helping someone, publishing something on love. It doesn't have to do anything with me. It's just I'm the one that initiated it. And everyone can do what they feel because everyone has a different religion. I mean, everything helps as long as it's done from the main feeling of love.
Yeah, so a very practical question as a social scientist as well, coming in, that I know all these movements start. I mean, there are enough things happening around the world. Revolutions start, they die down. That is the issue. You know, I'm a researcher, I've studied, the history stands witness to this. So these revolutions starts, these movements start, then they die down, or they become like, confined to a group of people. And
that's
then
that's what I do not want. I don't want it to be confined.
Yeah, so we go back to normal. We forget. This is a time of crises. So we all would do that. Then we go back to our normal ways.
I don't think there will ever be a back to normal after this pandemic.
Yeah. So yeah, that is basically a question, not a question. It's a reflection for all of us.
Yeah, I think it will not die down because love has a tendency to spread, and that's why I don't want to attach it to myself or any group. It's just there was a group on LinkedIn, especially made because of this soft revolution of love, and I'm in it, but it's not something that I'm going to promote or something, because I just want everybody to be free to do their own thing, because everybody has their own thoughts on it, and I don't want to interfere with them.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a vibration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Mir? You and I have talked about, and again, this may sound a bit esoteric, but I think John would appreciate that. We've talked about consciousness. We've talked about whether you believe in sort of a structural levels of consciousness. And it's very difficult to stay in those unconditional love vibrations. You could call it different dimensions. But in a way, to be honest, we are dealing with different levels or dimensions, right, of consciousness. Conscious of fear draws us down, right? Conscious of love lifts us up, and we feel more joy and hope. What is the dynamic? I mean, in a way, we're choosing, if we choose a path of love, we're choosing this higher vibration, right? And sadly, a lot of people will still, through their volition, choose a lower vibration. They will stay in fear, apathy, despair. And it's very sad for us who see just love as, I know we say it's such a sweet thing, but it's a place I rather choose to be in versus this place of fear. And you talked, I mean, you used the word pandemic. I would nod and say, probably, you know, the chess players of the world, as George Soros once says, I know exactly what's going to happen next. What do you mean? You know what's going to happen next. And so whether, and we're not denigrating them, we're saying we try to love them as well, but how do we lift, like, how do we intentionally sort of create that higher fifth, whatever level dimension of reality that we long for? How do we manifest that in your mind?
I think we cannot. I mean, we can do anything, but everybody has to know himself or know herself first. And if they choose to stay on that level of fear, it's their free choice. I mean, the only thing we can do is give the right example, meditate, pray, or whatever is your thing. And we can tell them, listen, it helps to reload your energy if you go out and walk in nature, touch a tree or stand on the roots of a tree, listen to the birds, smell the flowers. And I think we're just have to give the right example, keep our energies high. I'm trying to fast once in a while, although I'm not religious. So I fasted yesterday, which was not hard at all because I'm filled with love and light, and it's also giving me energy. Maybe also the full moon helped a little bit, but I didn't eat until 9 o'clock in the evening, and I was fine with it.
Right. I want to ask John, are you on mute, John? No, you're not on mute.
Oh, thanks.
Actually, just building on Mira and Anika, what the three of us talked before Mir joined us is, you know, we talked about the challenge of those who try to live in this higher conscious of love, how challenging it can be, especially when we encounter people who are in despair or fear, and we try to help them or in a way we can, or be compassionate, and it's draining. And yet we go out, as John's, you saw the beauty of the sea and the sky this morning, the blue, and said, wow, like this is the most beautiful day I've seen so far. But it's amazing how nature renews us and how we have to remind ourselves and each other that don't forget. And maybe that's our human condition, that we keep forgetting.
Well, can I just interject, Mark? It seems to me that everybody can make an individual effort to improve the world around them by whatever actions they wish to perform. Through chakra, through prayer, through benevolence, through charity. But you must know that every single day there are thousands of people praying for peace and for love. Thousands, if not millions. Because I have around me people all of my life who've been praying for peace and praying for love and praying for prayer and praying for the healing of their community. And I have very close to me people praying all the time for the salvation of children who are going through a great crisis of bad parenting, malnourishing, too much exposure to the internet, etc., etc. Now, these people who pray intensely, together, collectively, thousands, possibly millions, do this every day. So what you're doing as an individual is actually happening on a collective, in a huge collective way at this very moment, through the various churches and through the various traditions and through the various faiths. It's being done. But you know, this process of change doesn't happen instantly. If it does, then it's miraculous. And I pray for a miracle. But it's a progressive change. And I have seen people very badly afflicted who've been prayed for, and eventually over time, by love, by care, by giving them peace, they transform. It's a slow process. The new charter and Miriam's wonderful, compassionate approach to living her life is another added element to the ongoing process, which is going on around you all the time. And Miriam says she's not religious. Doesn't matter where she is. If the intention is there and the work is there, then the work is being done. But we are, in fact, in a crisis of immediacy, are we not, Mark? We have a financial crisis. We have a crisis of global governance. We have a crisis in the world economy. It's going to become huge, as you know. India today has announced extraordinary measures. Now, we need to pray for the whole world. It is certainly true, but we need to do it individually and collectively. So, but will we actually make it happen? We won't do it until we evangelize those in power. And those in power are conditioned not to hear the words we use of love. They're conditioned to hear the words of pragmatism and how do you manage this business? It doesn't have enough love, compassion in it. They're beginning to realize they've got to give money to the crisis now. They're suddenly finding money from nowhere to control their system. The people we have to approach are those in power. We need to do it, all of us, collectively, immediately. And it cannot be done in my opinion, in a haphazard way. It has to be at a time, consistent, and we've really got to start working on it. It's not changing us. The people are changed. The people, thousands, millions of people are changed in humility, praying to God individually and collectively through their faiths. The power that runs the world, the energy that runs governments and multinational corporations, that's where the problem is, because they are not hearing the words we use. If you read the corporate policy documents of the great corporations, the word love is never used, nor hope, nor peace, nor compassion, or charity, none of it. So we got to, as you correctly said, Brent, we've got to change the language. But it's not us who has to change the language. We're already using the language of love. I love you. I truly do. I love you. I do. We're using the word, and I mean it. I love you. I love all these people I've been waving to walk past. Hello. Hello. I love them. It's not you guys. It's them. It's the controllers. It's the power brokers.
So
now, what are we going to do about that, Mark?
Can we just be blunt and honest then?
They've
They've characterized corporations as having profiled sociopathic characteristics. And therefore, they would suggest that the CEOs, the leaders of those companies, also have sociopathic, if not psychopathic characteristics of behavior. I said to my students last night from the Seattle area, how is it that these men, mostly men, can go to sleep at night knowing that they've created a money system out of our imagination that has enslaved billions of us, in a system in which we wake up inside the matrix and don't even understand money? That's been my passion my whole life. What is money? Why are we so under a spell of the system that we created and that we allow it to persist? Now the practical question is, how do you deal with a psychopath? How do you deal with a sociopath, which maybe has characteristics of no empathy or has lost any semblance of empathy and love?
What's the answer? What is the answer?
The question, the practical issue is, in some ways, there's a wall that you will never penetrate. Now, the hope, of course, is that prayer, constant prayer, and some form of constant compassion will create cracks. What Leonard Cohen said, there are cracks in the matrix. The light will come in. And so this is the only hope we have, is that a friend of mine, an 84-year-old woman, said, you know, Mark, you should really appeal to get some really rich people. I said, oh, like Prince Charles or whoever, it doesn't matter. And support your idea of this new money system. I said, think about this, Barbara. You think the people who control the system now, the fact that I don't get a call from the Prime Minister of Canada is telling. The fact that I'm not on Canadian Broadcasting front line every night talking about this is telling. So I'm being practical, not cynical, just saying, if we're dealing with this kind of sociopathic kind of characterized system, and it could only be a small number of them, doesn't require a lot of them, then we are up against, apparently, I don't know, it seems surmountable, doesn't it? If you said there's only 300 of them and you've been up against them yourself, how is it that we can't, 7.8 billion of us, even if it's 20% are in prayer, can't overcome the sociopathic kind of system.
Yeah,
That's
I,
the fact.
I think this is what John is also saying. A, it's a slow process. And B, it's about what I always say, it's about educating or bringing the masses in, because it's all about people. What is the fact? You know, I've done so much research, and not that I'm saying, what comes up again and again is people, 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 people. And I'm a community person. I work with grassroots communities amongst people. I understand that the alchemy, you know, there is an alchemy, right? But again, as say, for example, starting from John, he wrote Real Management. And what was the question? How do we manage people, right? And I say, we create systems to facilitate people, then the systems enslave people, right? So what I'm saying is, yes, the magic word here is people. So bringing those people in, educating those people. So I think it's a good way of educating, or maybe raising their consciousness, what Mark is saying and what Miriam is doing. And we are doing collectively through this, this platform, that just raising that consciousness and saying, okay, come and join us if you want to. But I think John is asking a very pragmatic question. It can't be done overnight, or, you know, it is.
But I think we're on the right way. We are getting to the critical mass, and there are also very many people like me, because I have a public relations consultancy and I consult CEOs and I influence them, and I try to, I'm writing a book at the moment. It's called, well, it's a working title, but it's called, it's called Growing Your Business Stress-Free with PR. And I also have a chapter in it about using positive words. So yeah, I think all of us, we are all consultants. I have many people I know that are consultants, are trying to educate these CEOs to get a little crack into their hard shell and sprinkle some light in it. And I think when we are doing this soft revolution of love all over the world, we will reach critical mass in the end, and also reach the CEOs or the wife of the CEO who will influence the CEO.
Good.
Thank you. I think what Mir said is so fundamental. I'll get back to, you know, there's power in the voice, right? There's a power in what we profess that comes out. We say that what comes out is not defiles, right? So that's critical. When I teach my business student, if in the section of the corporate charter called Best Interest, Section 3, you are silent on why a corporation exists, if every business CEO took the Hippocratic Oath like doctors do no harm, Monsanto would be over, right? Because they would be held to account for that Section 3 of the corporate charter, which says do no harm. And so, but yet your lawyers will say, don't say anything. You're not responsible for anything, including profit maximization. You see, the point is, whatever we write down, whatever we articulate, whatever the narrative, you could say the wealth of nation is the narrative of under neoliberal economics. Yet Adam Smith never defined the word wealth in terms of the conditions of well-being. How is that possible? You know, and yet that's the narrative and the credo or theology, right? So we have to be very strict. That's why this Charter of Love, in a way, it's kind of a bit of a joke, but it's a serious call to affirm what we collectively, I think, feel in our hearts.
And I want to thank you very much, Anika and Mark, for writing it or rewriting it. But it's really, really cool, and I shared it with everyone I know, and they shared it with everyone they know. So it's a snowball effect, and also got a reaction on it that you should consider maritime law.
Maritime
law.
law.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna go there, are you?
No, Matthew's gonna send you an email, Mark. In most developed countries, the maritime law follows a separate code and is an independent jurisdiction from national laws, which I thought was a very interesting part.
I don't know if John knows about that, but I've studied that. That is very dark. Well, in the sense of very convenient and strategic.
May
The
I,
whole,
may I make a suggestion, Mark?
yes, yes.
I think you should go to Davos, World Economic Forum.
How about we create our own Davos?
Important, you know, I was invited. I didn't go to Davos in 2011, but my friend from Toronto, Toby did. And on his way from Toronto, he said, I'm hosting a dinner with Karl Koch-Weser, vice chairman of Deutsche Bank, George Soros, and Jim Balasili, who is the founder of BlackBerry or RIM in Canada. And he said, would you write a 2-pager pitch document? He wanted me to write on natural capital, which is what my expertise is. I said, can I write whatever I want? He said, yes, I'm going to consult 3 of my women friends. And I wrote, Dear George, basically, you know, I challenge you as business leaders to think about embracing a notion of genuine wealth, of well-being as a constructive architecture for the new financial system of the world, right? Basically. And then I said, Toby, what did they say? You gave him this letter. It's only 2 pages, easy to read. He said, interesting. George Soros said, an interesting idea, but I don't believe the world is yet ready for holistic wealth. Ah, I understand his response. Karl Koch-Weser, though, I'm so intrigued with this concept. I'm willing to be a Sherpa of the idea to the next G20 if you provide me with more details. Hence, I wrote my second book. Here's the details. Here's the practical operating system that based on well-being. All you have to do is try it, experiment. You won't get it right the first time, but here's some stories of what I've tried. And go ahead. It's all free. And so, interesting, right? So you have these 2 important men. Jim Balasili, I don't know what he's doing. He you know, BlackBerry went bankrupt. But but
Sorry,
here
I'm going to ask Miriam a question to what you said, that the world is not ready as yet. So Miriam, you do the high frequency PR, you call it, right? So tell us that how come our channel or the conversations we are having are not getting that kind of viewership, say for example, or interest compared to whatever else is available out there?
Because there's a lot of censorship, I think. But I got a message from Brian Rose from London Real TV the day before yesterday that he wanted to talk to me before I started the Soft Revolution of Love. He didn't call me, and I said to myself, well, I'm not going to wait for him. I'm going to start it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he still has to call me, but in the meantime, something else came up, and there are 2 things I want to talk to him about, which is also interesting for you maybe. It's 5G, because 5G is very dangerous for our health, and the governments have earned a lot of money, and the telecom industry trying to give us 2G, 3G, 4G, and now it's going to be 5G, and I don't think that's such a good idea. And I've talked to Dr. Joel Moskovitz about it, and he said, well, if you're going to say something about it on What Now, then I want you to say the right thing. So I wrote something down, and he said, no, that's not good enough. You got to say this. So can I say something about it?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Cell phones work by sending and receiving signals to and from cell phone towers. These signals are a form of electromagnetic radiation called radio frequency energy, or RF. And other sources of RF energy includes TV and radio transmitters, smart meters, and microwave ovens. When a phone sends a signal to a tower, the RF energy goes from the phone's antenna out in all directions, including to your head and your body. There are negative biological effects on humans from 2G. Since 5G is new technology, there's no research on health effects, so we are flying blind. However, we have considerable evidence about the harmful effects of 2G. Little is known about the effects of exposure to 4G, the 10-year-old technology, because governments have not been funding this research. Here you go again, economy, money. So industry is using fiber optics to reduce the latency time for 5G transmissions. She could also use microwaves instead of fiber optics. 5G does not give the people what the telecom industry promised, because moisture, people or animals, well, people are sacks of moisture or sacks of water, make the 5G waveforms so unstable that they can't sustain themselves moving through space because they're highly polarized. What the telecom industry expected in the lab could not be demonstrated in practice. But with all of the publicity and promises about 5G the industry made before they tried it out, she has to roll out 5G anyway. It's shifting to become more of a device than an infrastructure. In the test areas, there are some in the Netherlands, I know of, 70% of the signals revert to 4G and 3G. The telecom industry wants to sell the phone, the device, because it's the only way for them to earn money off of 5G. And then I had a practical thing. When you're encountering a self-driven bus, and there's a little boy coming from the right and a ball coming from the left, this bus is not going to choose for the ball instead of the boy because it can't think. And if the signal is not consequent, when the signal of 5G is being obstructed by something, this bus will not break at all. So I don't want to be in that bus. That's what I mainly wanted to say about it.
So, Mira, I know you're very sensitized to energy fields. What you've said is really important, and I know this conversation about 5G is something actually being censored for, you could say, for good reason, maybe, because it's in their self-interest not to talk about it and not to research the effects. Yesterday I was listening to Robert Kennedy Jr. talking about vaccines. You know, he's like, well, there's been lots of research that they're fine. And so there are some of us voices, and it's very confusing to discern what is truth. There's a dichotomy or a dialectic between, you know, positive and negative views on this. But, you know, we started with this conversation about energy, and there's no question that frequency, no matter what its source, has an effect on us. I think that's why they cut down big trees, because they're blocking some of these signals, as John, you know. So these are important things to be talking about, what we can do about it, because in a way we're sort of powerless against the, you know, the telecommunication companies, and they'll just put up more satellites and more towers. And
No, we're not, because there's, we're not, because you're not aware of that, but there's, for 20 years, there are court hearings and everything already against the telecom industry. But they are really laying low because they don't want the wrong information coming out. So the people who do fight against this industry, they asked me to do their PR, and they didn't have the funding yet, but I will. That's what I'm also going to talk about if I ever get to the London Real show. But yeah, there are people really busy with it, and I can say this litigation, they're not going to be feeling well if they lose this, because it's against, for example, the big telecom companies in America, like AT&T. So
we have 5 more minutes, but
yeah.
I have a question for you, Mir, because I've noticed I've been following Brian Rose for quite a while, and he represents to me one of those alpha males, American, who has done his own work, gone deep into his own subconscious reality, and come through it, I think, actually more in touch with love. But the interesting thing is, if you notice how many female guests he has, other than Marianne Williamson, almost no female guests. And so the question for you and Anika is, like, under what circumstances would Brian Rose now, right, where I think his heart is actually open, speak to someone as compassionate and calm and a female voice, female vibration?
I think it's about, I will let Mariam speak about it, but I think it's about what Mariam and I did show on this with other ladies, it was about honoring that sacred feminine inside all of us, not just women, men as well. And I think they have never been taught or educated, or they are scared. There's a blockage because they are scared of that. It's again the societal conditioning for a man to say, talk about love and being a softie at heart. Oh, no, 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 you can't do that. Men don't cry. So there's a lot of conditioning, societal conditioning. So I think they have to come to terms with their own sacred feminine, isn't it, Mariam?
Yes, I think so too. There is a feminine and a male part in everybody, and it should be in balance. And luckily, we still have the indigenous people and the elders and the mamos and the mamas. I met some medicine men and medicine women from Colombia. They were bare feet in October in Belgium. And I think Brian Rose learned a lot from them. And since he visited the indigenous, he has opened up his heart, like Mark said, and he's letting this feminine energy stream better. So yeah, I'm very curious whether he's going to call me today or not. And if he is, I'll tell him to interview you as well, Annika.
Sure.
And I will ask him to interview more women.
Great. John, would you like to say parting words and just sum it up?
I think it's difficult to sum this up because we are dealing with energy, but we're dealing with positive and negative energy. And that's what we are confronting in trying to resolve humanity's problems and nature's problems. And I think it's not possible to sum up other than, I hope, I may be correct in this, we've got to keep trying. We've got to keep praying. We've got to keep on dispensing as much love as we can in every way we can, at every single level, at every form of vibration, particularly to those close to us, particularly to the poor, particularly to the hungry. And so just keep doing good work, one by one and collectively. And eventually, if there are enough of us, perhaps governments will have to bow to a different sort of economic policy, which will be for the betterment of humanity at large. This is my hope, it's my prayer. It looks like a pretty tough task at the moment, but we've got to keep going.
Thank you, Mariam, for initiating this revolution along with Mark. Well done, both of you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.